Okay, good morning, everybody, and welcome to this spring semester and our general biology, Bio 1202. I know that many of you I see on the list that many of you were in my 1201 class, and certainly most of you, I think, will have been in the 1201 class, probably somebody else's, in the fall semester of 2020. You probably have a pretty good idea about the format and everything of the class. I do want to say anybody who was registered in 1201 and had done your registration for mastering biology and everything, that should persist. You shouldn't have to re-register for mastering biology. But anybody who is new, please make sure that you are properly registered on the Pearson site. Via Mastering Biology, go to Canvas and hit the Mastering and My Lab tag, and follow the instructions which I have posted on Canvas in a separate document to make sure that your registration for Mastering and My Lab is complete and correct, because that is very important, because practically each week you will have an assignment which is drawn from there, from My Lab and from Mastering. In addition, that gives you access to a lot of tuition materials, which are very, very useful, especially the movies, many of which I don't have time to show. The little video clips and things I don't have time to show during class. Let me just say, first of all, make careful note of my email. Please, 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 whenever you email me, make absolutely sure that you put your name and your class designation in the subject heading. I get hundreds of emails, and it is very, very easy for emails to get lost, I'm afraid. But if you put your class designation into the subject line along with something that tells me what you want to discuss with me, that makes life a lot easier for all of us. So second of all, our class, now this is class time. Well, this is mostly an asynchronous class. Each class is recorded and is sent to you as an MP4, and then is uploaded also to YouTube, so that you can, not only you can do these classes anytime you want, but you can go back to them and repeat them, which is a very useful thing to do. Remember that in your learning process, it is repetition, 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 repetition that gets the material into your head. Even difficult material, if you repeat it over and over, you begin to, each time you do it, you'll understand more. Each time you repeat, you trick your brain into thinking that this is important enough that your brain should remember it. Your brain does not scrub it as short-term memory. It starts to put it into long-term memory if you repeat stuff over and over again, even to the point that it is boring. That is the way to really effectively learn. Continually revise, continually repeat, and use all the neural mechanisms that are available to you. Do not just sit and read or highlight or whatever. Do not just sit and look at the videos and let the images just wash over you. Instead, sit with a pen and paper and make notes continuously each time you do it. That way you reinforce via various neurological mechanisms, and you'll not only understand better, but you'll remember. Once you understand clearly, very easy to remember. So our classes, as I say, mostly asynchronous on Monday. Each Monday, the class will be live so that you have a chance to interact. When you come into the class, as most of you have done, it's absolutely fine if you don't put your video on and everything. Feel free to interrupt any time with questions, but please make sure you are muted for the rest. But you're welcome to take off the mute and put in your questions whenever you want.
I actually have one question,
Yes,
Professor.
go ahead. Go ahead,
All right.
Nick.
So attendance isn't mandatory then, right?
No, absolutely
Okay.
not. No, you can do it anytime you want.
Okay. And for the
I'm not keeping a record of who is in when I'm doing live classes.
and for the mastering lab, it also what's it called? The code doesn't work. It says it's expired.
Yeah, mine says that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, all right. Okay, thank you for telling me that. I was initially told that that it was the same. So all right, that's fine. I'll check that up with the Pearson people and see what the problem is.
Okay, thank you.
So in any case, I am going to be posting the classes at 9:05 Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Monday will be live. It's recorded and it is posted just as any of the other classes are. I really strongly advise you to develop a routine. Treat it as if it is a class that you have to attend, and open those classes at 9:05 or at some set time on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Make that, do not allow them to stack up. Do not allow them to go by and you don't do Wednesday, so you've got to do Wednesday and Friday together, and then you get halfway through and your brain's bursting, so you stop and now you've got Monday, you've got another stack that you've accumulated. Do it assiduously on the time. Develop that study habit. Make that time in your day, even if you have to do it at another time than 9:05. Just make sure that you set a particular time. Yes, I'll check up now for the mastering biology for you. Make sure that you can all get in. There's no assignment this week. We've got a week to go to get that all straightened out. In addition, could you please all make sure that you go to the New York Times online site? This is free access, and register for the New York Science Times, which I believe comes out on Wednesdays. I can't quite remember. I think it's on Wednesdays. And periodically, I will set a group discussion about topics from New York Science Times. Much of it, of course, at the moment is concerned with viruses and with COVID, and that sort of thing, vaccinations. So that's also very useful. This is a basic class of biology and biological principles. 1201, what we discussed mostly was processes, things like genetics, evolution, molecular biology. In 1202, we discuss far more about systems. For example, taxonomy, how are organisms related to one another? Macroevolutionary processes, we'll hear more about, we'll start hearing about today. Ecology, and then also physiological systems, excretion, nutrition, this sort of thing. So it's far more emphasis on systems biology rather than processes. The grading, please take careful note. No matter how many times I discuss, there always seems to be questions at the end of the semester. First of all, I'll explain that you have 3 exams during the semester. Those are clearly delineated on your calendar. Please pay careful attention. Make sure that you set those dates aside. These exams will be administered on Canvas, and they are during class time. Only in rarest exceptions will I set a makeup or anything like that.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
So are the exams going to be the exact dates that you have on the schedule?
I hope so, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have a problem?
No, I'd like to write it in my agenda.
Okay, no. As far as unless something drastic happens, no, they will be on those dates. Yeah. So those 3 interim tests, the lowest grade is dropped. However, please do not figure that in as a strategy. Study hard for each of those tests. Work as hard for each test as you would for any of the other tests. Do not set aside work and say, oh, well, this is too difficult, or I haven't got time, so I'm just going to blow this exam and have it be my lowest. Do not do that. Because if very frequently I can see on grade sheets that people have done that. And then the next test, they blow completely and they've got 2 low grades. Do not work as hard as you can for each of the tests. Work each of them as an individual exam and do as well as you possibly can. And then let's see what happens at the end of the semester. Whichever of them is lowest gets dropped. In the final exam, you are examined on comprehensively. You get tested on all the material from the whole semester, plus material which has not yet been tested. Each of the interim tests examines material which has not been examined. In other words, they don't become cumulative. Okay, they each stand alone, and that each interim test tests material which has not yet been examined, and you'll see on how that works on the syllabus. There is 15. That is the final, by the way, is 20%, and you can really think of it as the final as being it's like 2 tests, right? There's a portion which tests unexamined work, and then a cumulative portion which tests everything from the whole semester.
So I have a quick question.
Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
So remember, like last semester, you gave us the the PowerPoints that you display. Are you gonna still do that again? We're gonna post the PowerPoints on Canvas.
Yes, it's posted.
Oh, it is.
Posted.
Oh, okay. I'll check now.
Yeah, let me know if it's not up,
is.
because it is up. Okay, all
It's in modules.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
No, that's fine. It's fine. So there's a 15% set aside for, there are going to be some homework assignments. I'll also, as I told you, I'll set up some discussion groups, and then the quizzes as well. Quizzes we'll try to have 1 a week. They're scheduled, it says 1 a week. On the odd occasion, I'll give you a break. But your first quiz will be next Wednesday, okay? And those quizzes are usually on Wednesday, again, administered over Canvas. The mastering biology assignments, those go up pretty much once a week. Mastering biology assignments are very, very, very useful to you. I draw heavily from them for tests, first of all. Second of all, it's a very good way of revising and consolidating material that you have covered during the week. So again, I make the dates for the mastering biology assignments very loose. I don't hold you tightly, but I expect you to be disciplined about it. Do those each week, because each of them will lead you through the material which has been covered, and it will also take you through a little bit of extra material which we don't have time to cover. And this counts 10% at the end. Those assignments count 10%. It's easy to get very high marks on mastering biology because you get several. You can before you submit, you can do several attempts, and you can sit and work out. You're perfectly free with mastering biology assignments. You're perfectly free to sit and work with your notes, with your textbook, or whatever. It's not a test. Work through them and get the correct answers, and however you want. Now, there's also a 5% grade set aside for a service learning project. Now, under normal circumstances, this is perfectly easy to accomplish. I need to come back to, I need to go and talk to the powers that be about the service learning project, because with COVID restrictions, you're pretty much limited to either doing something just on your own, for instance, going by yourself to do a beach cleanup or something like that, which you certainly can do, or else doing something online. But I need to just discuss with the head of department exactly what we are expecting for the service learning project. But there will be a service learning project of some sort. There's a service learning expectation for 5%.
Wait,
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, so if we with the learning project, right?
Yes.
Would it be possible if we maybe invited a couple of people with mask and COVID things and making sure everybody's safe, and then take pictures of it and submit it on a PowerPoint? Could we do something like that, or does it have to be
that sounds to me like an excellent idea.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure we were going the right route with it, not just.
I think anything like that's quite an imaginative thing to do. Yes, I would think that would be fine. I have to say, I don't actually have anything to do with the service learning project. It is graded by your laboratory, whoever's doing the laboratory with you. I just have to tell you that it forms part of your class marks, but I don't actually have anything to do with it. It's managed by the laboratory, whoever is doing laboratory with you. But as I say, I will discuss it with them. But Nick, that's exactly the sort of thing I think which they're expecting people to try and do online and everything else.
Okay, that sounds good.
Yep. But if you can say other people, if you can think of something like going and doing a beach cleanup by yourself, or with safely socially distanced with a couple of friends, then yes, check up with whoever's doing the lab and see if how you can arrange it that it is a suitable project.
Professor.
Yes, go ahead.
How many live Zoom calls will we have a week?
How many which?
Live Zoom calls will we have a week?
One. Monday, yes, on Monday.
And the rest will be pre-recorded videos,
yes.
Right?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, so I just there are a couple of class rules which I want to make really clear, because people, this comes back to me the whole time, the same kind of requests. First of all, it is very, very important that you sit and look at your curriculum, that you look at your transcript, and you carefully see the importance of this class in the overall picture of how you are graduating and everything else. What I mean by that is you need to decide at the very beginning of the class, you need to understand the importance of this class to you. The grade which you receive at the end of the class is your responsibility. It is not my responsibility. I do the math. I go through everything, the whole scheme of how marks need to be assigned and everything, and I see how you have done. And I add up those grades and I assign a grade. It is not something I suck out of my thumb. I say that because always towards the end of the semester, I get panicked emails from people saying, I have to get a B in this class, or I have to get an A, or I have to pass this class, but otherwise I won't graduate. Those are all things you need to realize at the beginning of the semester, not at the end of the semester. And you need to realize if you need a B, it's your responsibility to get a B. It is not my responsibility to give you a B. And this leads to some considerable head butting from time to time, not always, with people being very upset because they have not got the grade that they needed. Getting the grade is your responsibility. Assigning the grade is my responsibility. But the assignment of the grade is a mechanical process. I don't assign grades according to how I feel. No matter how much I feel that I would like to give you a better grade, if you don't earn the grade, you don't get it. So please make sure that you understand what it is you need to do in this class and set aside the time in order to do it. There's a lot of material. Some of the material is difficult. That is the point of being at college. That is what you are here for. You're training your brain and you're acquiring knowledge, and you're acquiring knowledge in a workable form. Once you do that, that knowledge is yours forever. Even if you forget the details, you'll remember the structure of what you learned, and you'll know where to go to find the details if you ever need it again. Second of all, always towards the end of semester, I get these panicked requests. Please, can I have extra credit assignment to increase my grade? The answer is no. Any extra credit, there will be extra credit assignments, but those extra credit assignments are assignments which are assigned to the whole class. I cannot offer extra credit to individual students, which is not offered to everybody. That is totally unfair. So there will be extra credit assignments. Those extra credit assignments get added to your grade. If we go through this whole scheme and here, and the whole marking scheme, if I can ever get there. We go through this whole marking scheme here, and we end up with a total, and you've done the extra credit assignments, then whatever you earned on those extra credit assignments will simply be added to your total. When we go through all of this, everything added together, that is 70% of your total grade. 30% comes from your lab, and that I have nothing to do with. Whoever's running the lab sends me your lab grade. I have to say, despite the fact that this was online and very difficult last semester, most people did extremely well on their lab grades. So that is worth working. That's a hefty chunk of the total. That's 30%. Okay. Makeup exams are only given under exceptional circumstances. Under normal circumstances, you are expected to complete a test or whatever, even the quizzes, during class time on that assigned date. Of course, there are those occasions, especially now when some people are getting ill, whatever, where an exception has to be made, but it has to be very well documented, because it is very difficult. It becomes very complex to be running these exams and tests online at various different times. And besides which, I hate to say it, but there is a security aspect to it as well, of keeping exam material confidential. So makeup exams will only be given under very exceptional circumstances. Obviously, if you are suddenly taken ill, that is valid, but I need to be kept aware of what is happening. I don't get an email a week later to say, oh, I missed last week's test because I was sick. If that happens, then you'll simply be told, okay, you take that as your dropped grade. If it's arranged, if I'm told I'm sick today, and here is a doctor's note, whatever, or I'm sick today, I'll give you a doctor's note tomorrow, then I'm prepared to entertain the idea. Other emergencies and things, please keep me informed. Please do not come to me much later and say, oh, such and such a thing happened, and now can I have a makeup? This one here, family emergency. Ooh, I get told, oh, I'm sorry, I couldn't do my exam. There was a family emergency. What is the family emergency? It's private. No, I'm sorry, doesn't work. Doesn't work. I need to have an explanation that will stay confidential with me, but just telling me something happened and you must give me a makeup, that doesn't work like that. If those very rare occasions where a makeup is given, there must be a very good reason. Okay, study habits and study structures. Okay. First of all, as far as possible, please read the assigned chapter before class. You don't have to do a deep reading of it. Read through it. But realize there's a huge amount of material in Campbell. Each chapter is very, very full. We literally, in our classes, we literally skim the chapters. And for those of you who are really interested in biology, it is worthwhile to realize that our class is actually a skeleton, and you can build on that skeleton by reading. Remember what I always tell you over and over: those who read succeed. Because if you read the chapter, you flesh out that skeleton, and it makes the material much more logical and much more understandable. However, don't wander off into the weeds and get lost in detail and get confused. It's not necessary. I pretty much stick to examining you on what I teach you in the class and what is in your assignments and things like that. That is what I'm going to examine you on. I'm not going to suddenly pose questions on material which is in the chapter, but which we haven't covered in class. Nonetheless, read through the chapter. When you sit and watch these videos, do not just sit back and watch the video, because within 10 minutes, your mind's going to be somewhere else. And instead, sit with a pen and pencil and make notes as if you were in a live class. That, again, pushes it through the neural pathways and makes, and just forces your brain to assimilate and process even while you're doing the initial listening. Yes, go ahead.
Oh, when you telling us like the study and stuff for exams or quizzes, or like, you suggest our best way to study is like to look over the PowerPoints that the videos that you post, and look over the PowerPoints in the textbook possibly, or?
Yes, exactly. If you repeat these videos for the video class material, for example, you're still studying, especially if you've got a pen and pencil in at your side.
No problem.
Yep. There are. I will also recommend every now and again that you watch videos. Unfortunately, one of the unfortunate things about Zoom is it's very difficult for me to use YouTube videos embedded in the classes. It's very easy in a live class, but Zoom for some reason does not like it. Does not like YouTube embedded. And so sometimes I will recommend you, okay, here is a video. I'll often give you a link in your PowerPoint and say, here's a link, please follow. Please make sure that you do go to those videos, because often they're very, very explanatory. There's also a lot of material on mastering biology. The idea of repetition is really important. Make sure you revise what's covered in class soon afterwards. And then make sure that you repeat. Don't repeat during the semester. Revise stuff continuously. Don't leave it all to the end of the semester. Don't like revise for a test in class and then forget about that material until the end of the semester. Keep revising. It forms a coherent story. Also begin for the final, for that comprehensive, make sure that you start your revision early. Don't leave it to the very, very end. Virtually every class you'll see me post, those who read succeed, and it is absolutely true. And it is not only people who are reading their textbook. It is really important that you be reading other stuff as well. We do not fully understand what the importance, why reading is so important, but it is. It's very, very, very important. And it appears that reading from the paper page is even more important than reading from the screen. And so keep reading. That's what you're at college for. You're at college basically to read. Read your material, read your biology stuff, read your biology textbook, but also make sure that you've got a science fiction book at your bedside to read. Make sure that you're reading comic novels. It's whatever. Read. Get your brain working. It's exercise for your brain. What else do I have to say? Okay, the calendar is pretty much clear. And as I say, your first test, the first quiz is on Wednesday. First one is next Wednesday. The dates of the tests are sorry, I've done something wrong. In any case, the dates of the exams and everything are quite clear. Make sure that you understand exactly where they are. And does anybody have any other questions?
I have a question. Again, I'm sorry I keep asking questions.
No, not at all. Don't feel sorry.
Based off of the calendar that we have, right? That's going to be like, we're gonna try to stick to that schedule.
Oh, yes. But you know what happens. I mean, you saw what happens with me. I start talking too much.
Nice.
I seem to have done something terribly wrong. In any case, yeah, we will stick to the calendars as much as we can. Okay, and but I do run over, and inevitably things get dropped. But as I say, I'm not going to test you on stuff that I haven't covered in class. Sometimes I may be able to say to you, look, go and read this on your own and study it. But I'm not going to set massive amounts for you to work through on your own. But by and large, if I don't teach it in the class, it's not going to be examined.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah. Just let me, I've done something wrong here. So.
And you said we're starting the first PowerPoint today, but
yes.
are we going to carry on to this with the next lecture?
Yes.
Or are we going to do the whole thing in one day?
No. This is going to be split. No, very definitely. It's going to be split. Otherwise your heads will explode, and so will mine. Okay. Just let me check. Can everybody see that?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. All right. So as I say, those of you who were in my 1201 class, you did see this material, but I'm going to go. I went through it very, very quickly at the end of the semester, and I'm using it just as a segue now into our second semester of biology. And it is a basic introduction to the history of life on Earth, but we will, during the semester, we will refer back to this in much more detail in some particular instances. So, of course, the history of life on Earth is extremely fascinating. We have probably only a passing understanding of the processes that were involved, and because the life on Earth, or the Earth rather, has existed for such a very long time, over 4 billion years, since the formation of the planet. Many of the things that happen, the events and processes, are hidden, are lost to us. And much of what we believe about the history of life on Earth is inferred. Actually, I have to tell you, from not particularly good evidence, because so much has been lost. The Earth is a very dynamic system. It is a geologically dynamic system. And unfortunately, those geological processes tend to grind up to nothing much of the evidence of events that have happened. So when we discuss this, we need to realize that it seems to form a very clear picture, but that picture is continually changing as we acquire new information and as the depth of our understanding increases. So let's just have a look and see some of the basic principles. Some of these you already understand and you have already heard about. First of all, you are aware of the fact that when we consider life on Earth as we see it now, the groups, the living things that we see now are very, very different to the living things that have formerly existed. And we understand that really throughout the existence of life on Earth, extinction seems to be the rule. The vast majority of organisms which have existed on Earth at any one time are now extinct. The morphological forms and everything else are no longer present, but other groups are. And we understand that what we see now is linked. It is linked by ancestry to earlier forms. And that is much our study, for example, of the science of macroevolution. Macroevolution is the evolutionary processes which lead to the development of major new groups, major new morphological forms, major new adaptations, not to the small scale changes that we talked about in the first semester, which lead to speciation and that sort of thing, but instead macroevolution leads to the development of new groups from previously existing groups. So when we look at all life on Earth, we realize, first of all, we all share a common ancestor. And if we look at any group existing today, let's take, for example, let's say the mammals. Let's say we're going to look at the mammals as a group. If we go far back in time, we realize that the mammals have common ancestry with one another. But if we go even further back in time, the mammals share common ancestry with other major groups as well. For example, the mammals share common ancestry with the reptiles. Let's just take that as a starting point. We have a common ancestor, for example, with the reptiles. If we were to go back millions of years, 500 million years, we could go and try and find that common ancestor. If we were looking in a geological record, in a sedimentary record, we would look for that common ancestor far down in the sedimentary record. It would be at the bottom in the old geological strata. We would find more recent groups in the younger strata of geological record. And we would note immediately that these differed in some way from these here. If we were to track a group, we find that these groups continually diverge. They have a common ancestor, but there is an adaptation and there's change takes place, leading to the development of new groups from that common ancestor. Many of those groups end up becoming extinct. Many of them, in fact, the majority of them, but some continue some continue to diversify and to radiate. And there are processes which we're going to look at during the semester, which increase the possibility that those from that common ancestry, new groups will arise. One of the major driving forces is the fact that the surface of the Earth is not a static entity. It's dynamic. It continually changes. And we are able to track this, for example, in the fact that the continents move. They move away from one another, and they also collide with one another. The surface of the Earth is a dynamic entity, but remember, on the surface of the Earth, for example, there are populations of organisms. Have a look here, and you see, here's an instance where we can posit that a group, here it is here, don't look at the division here yet, but look back here. Here's a group of organisms existing, let's say, on a continent, a coherent group. As long as that piece of land exists as an entity, those populations mingle with one another continuously, and not much diversification takes place. What are they doing? They're exchanging alleles the whole time in the population. And the population, as long as the environment stays the same, the population tends to remain the same. However, that huge block of land is not static. It's dynamic. And over time, for example, if that land splits, when it splits and begins to move apart, the populations, we end up with two populations, not a single population, and the populations move with the continents. Their ability to breed between one another is lost, and each group now proceeds along its own evolutionary path, remembering that conditions on the drifting continents are going to now change. The environment is going to change. They're going to move through different climatic areas, for example. And this serves as a driving force for the evolution of different groups. Here are two different groups which are moving on two different areas of land and going along their own evolutionary paths and ending up being quite different to one another. The same process. Yes, go ahead.
So where it says continental drift, like that arrow that's pointing to like that section.
Yes.
That's when the planet started like splitting apart and the animals like moved to different areas in the world.
Correct.
Right? They started migrating.
Correct.
And eventually when it says mass extinction with the little red bar here with the crosses, yes. It looks like I can't even see that. That means like that was the end of their time. Like there was no other records of them because they went extinct. Is that correct?
Correct. Or? Exactly. And this actually we can use this actually as a model for real events, because this mimics, in fact, the evolution of things of a group like the reptiles, for example, which led eventually to the reptiles being separate from the mammals. And they've had, as we'll hear, they have, in that evolutionary process, they have had exactly these events happen. An early group ended up being separated by changing structure of the continents, diversified enormously, and then there was a massive mass extinction, not the one that everybody knows about, the asteroid that wiped out the dinosaurs, but an earlier mass extinction, which was much greater, which led to the survival of reptiles, which went on to form the dinosaurs and everything, and then a group which formed the mammals. So although this is just a generic diagram, we can see these processes in real groups, in the evolution of real groups.
Okay.
Here's a mass extinction. Mass extinctions, obviously, because we're still here, mass extinctions don't lead to the wiping out of all life. It's conceivable that a mass extinction could do that, but none have done so. We always have survivors, but think about what happens during a mass extinction. Think of the Earth at this time here, before this event happened. Look at the enormous diversity in all of the different groups. All these could be all different animal groups, right? There's enormous diversity. Time has passed. Continents have moved all over the place. These groups have been subjected to different evolutionary pressures. They've broken, they've split apart. Sometimes they've come together again. All sorts of processes have led to this huge diversity of groups. Now, this random event occurs. This random event happens, whatever it is. With an asteroid hitting is just an easy one to think of. There may be other processes that can lead to mass extinction. And when we say mass extinction, we really mean mass extinction. Look how all of these groups get wiped out. Some of them limp through and then die out. But very few groups actually survive. But look what happens to the groups that do survive, what is possible for the groups that do survive. All of these ecological niches which were occupied, those ecological niches are suddenly open. The populations that occupy them are gone. They got lost in the mass extinction. Now, populations that survive can radiate out into those. They can radiate into those empty ecological niches. We see bursts of rapid evolution, macroevolution taking place to lead to more diversity. And this seems to be the history of these groups on Earth. Extinction, radiation, over and over and over again. This here is a special example of radiation. This is what happens, for example, when a group ends up occupying somewhere where there are many ecological niches which are available, for instance, on an island or something like that, and you get a burst of very, very rapid radiation, which we refer to as adaptive radiation. All of a sudden, we saw this, for example, in the Galapagos, where the islands had very poor fauna. An ancestral bird arrived. The population of birds boomed and began to compete with one another, and it drove them to start to adapt to many different ecological niches which were available to them. That is adaptive radiation. Okay, so these are the kinds of processes that we're going to be talking about when we talk about macroevolution, which is going to occupy a lot of our time. Okay, do we have any other questions? Yep, go ahead.
I'm sorry. So
no, don't apologize.
Adaptive radiation, is that when, like, once they like migrate into like other different areas of the world because of because of continental drift, they migrate, and the survivors, or the ones that didn't go extinct, are those the ones that have to like adapt to the environment now?
Yes. Suddenly, well, what happens is, for example, the population begins to compete with one another so fiercely that any members of that population that have adaptations for other ecological niches, they begin to radiate into those ecological niches. And yeah, the easiest one to think about is something like the Galapagos, where we got rapid speciation once an island was settled. But this adaptive radiation can also happen where you have an event which wipes out most of the other populations and just one small group survives. And a good example, I'll give you a good example of this are the mammals themselves. The mammals, originally, there was a population of organisms called the mammal-like reptiles, which were very diverse, very, very, very successful, which were ancestral to the mammals. And as long as the mammal-like reptiles were around, they occupied all the ecological niches. Mammals stayed as a very obscure little group, not very successful, but they hung around. The mammal-like reptiles were wiped out by a mass extinction. And the mammals themselves were then outcompeted by the dinosaurs. But when the dinosaurs were wiped out, suddenly the mammals had all of this ecological niche diversity available to them, and the mammals radiated out just like this, very rapidly, to occupy all of the niches which had been occupied by the dinosaurs. So this here tells a real story. It's not just theoretical. Okay, so we'll leave it there for today, and I will see you on Friday. Friday's class will be recorded, but don't forget Monday's class will again be live. Okay.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So you're gonna just record yourself doing like talking about it, or is it gonna be an actual live video as well? Like for Friday?
No, Friday will just be recorded. It'll be asynchronous. You can look at it, view it whenever you like, but I will post it by 9 o'clock on Friday.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. You'll see an email arrive with the class, but then you can also go to YouTube and watch it on YouTube as well.
All right.
All right, everybody. Are there any other questions?
No.
Hello.
Yes, hi.
Hi, Professor Muir. I was wondering, so the live meetings are every Monday, so they're on Mondays?
Yes.
And
Yes.
I wanted to know, are they mandated? Because I know some professors are
No.
saying that you have to be there.
No.
Okay,
No.
thank you.
If you can be there, then it's fine. I will also every night. I'm not going to do it every week this semester, but I will make sure that like every other week or so, I will have a question time which I'll advertise. I'll send you a note on Canvas to tell you I'll have a question time in addition to the live classes. In addition to the classes, rather, I will have a live question time sometime during the week.
And that's
Okay, thank you so
every now
much,
and again.
Professor Muir. All right,
Yeah,
happy
sure.
holidays.
Yeah. Oh, yes, of course. Yes, you too. And don't forget, it's a very, very, very historic and important day today. So 12 o'clock, remember to watch the inauguration.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Otherwise,
you.
stay safe, everybody.
You have a good
Okay,
day.
you too.
Bye, Professor.
Bye-bye.
Professor, thank you.